a silver lining. With that loss, we spent a lot of money to make a lot of net worth. I think our net worth kicked up another 600,000 just in one year. So, the loss was a hardship. It was tough. It was these gray hairs in the sides of my head.
Hey, what's up, everybody? You just had a short clip from the end of this episode where Brent, my guest speaker, talks about how his net worth grew over 600,000 in only 1 year. In this episode, we talk about some gold nuggets of wisdom that you can implement today to see the kind of success that he is seeing. I need you to go write out 2 to 3 gold nuggets and start implementing, because I believe it only takes one gold nugget of wisdom to get you on the right track. Anyway, enjoy.
Hey, thank you for tuning in. My name is Justin Taylor, and I'm here with my co-host Austin Wilder and my guest speaker Brent Meeks. And this is episode 1 of the Golden Nugget podcast show for real estate entrepreneurs. Whether you are an amateur or pro in this business, we're going to drop some gold nuggets that you can implement today. I know someone will be listening to this and think to themselves, they should be doing more in life, but just cannot figure it out. But that is okay, because by the end of this podcast, you will have a gold nugget to implement today. I have set some huge goals in my life, and I'm on pace to achieve them. My co-host, Austin, he is on the same journey, and we want to share with you how to do this. Successful people do not have successful mindset once they reach their goals. They have it before they reach their goals. And me and Austin have figured that mindset out. Now we have to continue our journey and keep implementing. So in the future of this podcast, we will drop more gold nuggets with more guest speakers. Austin, why don't you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and your goals?
For sure. Thanks everybody for tuning in. If you're listening to this podcast, my name is Austin Wilder. Justin is one of my best friends since we were kids. We met in high school, and we've been on this journey ever since. I work and live in Houston, Texas. I do accounting work for one of the big 4 accounting firms, and some of my goals is to have $21 million in real estate by the time I'm 35. I just started my first company, and I hope in the next 2 to 3 years to clear 100K in profit. And one of the things I like best about real estate is the opportunities it affords in terms of freedom. I've seen so many people that they can extend their wealth and their freedom through real estate to their family, and that's something that I want to do. I'm a big family guy, and so I hope that one day I can allow my fiance to retire, my parents to retire, my in-laws to retire, and that's what I want to do for myself and for my family.
Yeah, why don't you tell them a little bit about your company? I'm sure people are curious to know which company.
So I started a asset recovery firm. I help people recover assets that they didn't know they lost. Something that they might be entitled to from a recently or a long lost relative. And so they don't know that money's there. And so I aim to help them recover that money. So it's a really big win-win.
Yeah. I think you told me you've got your first contract. You're on pace to close a $18,000 deal for yourself. So he's in the process.
I'm very excited.
He's looking to clear 100K. That's one of his goals. Me and Austin, we've been really competitive. We find ways to always compete, but I think it goes much further than our competitiveness. It's the accountability we have towards each other and the belief in our mindset. But some of my goals I have personally is I want to have 5 companies. One of those companies being my parents. I hope to buy that company in the next 10 years and help them retire. I want to at least done over 1,000 flips before I'm 40, and I want to have. Well, I put 20 million, but Austin said 21. So now I have to say 22 million in real estate by the time I'm 35. So I gotta one up them. But I guess transitioning to my guest speaker, Brent Meeks, I want to fast forward 10 years. He's in his mid 30s, and he's everything, all the goals that me and Austin are mentioning, he's already done it. He has 4 companies, a net worth over a few million, and he's setting the type of goals right now that's allowing him to even talk about retirement in the next few years. I had a conversation with him the other day where he was telling me about some of his goals, and it's just crazy that he even has that opportunity to talk about retirement. But Brent, how about you tell us a little bit about yourself? Did I miss any of the key points about your success?
Man, just throw it all out there. Why don't you? I guess. No, I think you hit most of it on the head there. I gotta say, first of all, I appreciate you invited me on your podcast, and man, such a special thing to be number one, the first one to blaze that trail on your podcast. So thank you for having me as your first guest. Um, but yeah, a little bit about myself. I'm an entrepreneur at heart. I don't know if that comes from ADD, ADHD, where it's like I got to do something different once I get something going, or what. But I've always found that I've enjoyed looking for opportunity or like solving something. So I think I had a base of real estate as a career, but then I saw a few things, and I'd start another company based on that, or I saw an opportunity. I started a company based on that. So I've got a transportation company. We run semi trucks, and then we also just launching a product for sale by owners. So that's coming to market probably in the next 30 days. That was a long-term kind of launch. It's been years in the making, and finally getting to go on that one. Then I have a Meeks Properties, which is my hold company where we hold rental properties, and still expanding actually on that. And hopefully by the end of this year we'll get to our goal where we can just kind of stop with that. And I think at that point I'll be able to, if I wanted to, step away and retire, but I think we'll probably keep going. And then also I have another company, Pinnacle Investments, which we work under that in a couple different ways. We work for the public. I'm a licensed contractor, commercial and residential, and we do work for the public. We build spec houses, things of that nature, and then also we flip houses. So we purchase houses at discount and fix them up and then sell them at profit. And sometimes we don't do much to them, and sometimes we're dumping quite a bit of cash into it. So that's my main companies, I guess. And then I dabble in stocks and crypto and maybe a few other things that I think might have a return over a long period of time. So that's kind of me in a nutshell. And man, just happy to be here. Thanks for having me, Justin.
Yeah, so for those of you, my relationship, like Austin mentioned, he's me and him have been real close for the last 15 years. We met in seventh grade, but my relationship with Brent Meeks, he's a very close. I consider him a friend, mentor slash boss. I did my very first deal through one of his companies, allowing me to get a flip, and so he's been a close mentor of mine. That's our relationship. I'm always calling him. We probably talk on the phone once a day. I'm constantly bugging him, asking him different questions about different things, and I'm quite a ways before I can surpass him. But Brent,
did you say, Justin? Did you say once a day, or was that 15 times a day that we talk? How many was that now?
Yeah, no, I think I under exaggerated. It was a little bit more than that, but man,
we talk a lot, but that's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. So the point of me saying that is I get to see Brent work closely. He's a good father. The way he fathers his children, I think half of the times I call him, I hear his girls in the background, and he's saying, "Come on, girls, be quiet," and the way he handles it. So as far as being busy like that, but still cutting out time for family, that brings us to the first point on scheduling your day, and just how do you maintain that type of schedule and that many companies. Like give me your idea day, like how do you schedule it and how do you handle that type of workload? Because I know there's people living paycheck to paycheck, and they just don't understand how to process handling that type of load.
Yeah, and I'm going to try to be completely transparent on this podcast. I can sit here and tell you I've got it all together, and I do things by the book. But in reality, when you start getting multiple things on your plate, it's just hard to at least for me, it's probably my biggest weakness is like scheduling and structure and things like that. It's just not my personality. I'm a creator, and I like to dream, and what comes along with that is somebody who doesn't like to be fit in a box. And when you schedule, it really boxes things out, so it carves out time so that you can focus on the things that you need to focus on, and not just get into the busy work of the day-to-day schedule. You can actually hash out that time that you can knock out things that are going to move that needle, right? So for me, that's that biggest struggle. But like, if you block out your schedule, and I think Justin can speak on this a lot. If you block out your schedule in a strategic way, where you're creating time for each of these companies, or creating time for critical thinking, or you're creating time to like do your busy work, or even creating time to like do family work, because that can get in the mix too, and it's important. You gotta have a nice balance too. So I think in the balance part, I think the balance, making sure you have a healthy balance of things, because if you just, I think, work nonstop, that could be counterproductive too. I don't think you're working at your best of your ability. But I think the structure part, where you set apart time for certain things, that's what's going to allow you to do more when you schedule like that. But what do you think, Justin? I know you've dove into the blocking out schedules, and like really hashing out what each of those time blocks really represents. What do you think on that in regards to scheduling?
Yeah, so I've had issues sticking to a schedule. Like, that's my weakness. I was the person that would say from 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. is gym time, 7 to 7:45 is breakfast, 7:45 to 9 o'clock I'm cold calling. That hurt me because I have no freedom in that schedule. It might work for some people. Austin's a little bit of an analytical person. I'm more of I like to envision things and set big goals. And I think me and Austin have a little bit of a visionary / implementer mindset. I think he's a little bit heavier on the implementer mindset, and that's what allows him to be an accountant at the big firm. But the point of saying that is the way my brain works is I kind of lean a little bit heavier towards that visionary mindset. And ideally, when you lean towards that type of mindset, structure tends to, I guess, be a little hard for me to follow when it's word for word. So I started doing these time blocks. I have what's called critical task, and then I have what's called deep work. And so what I do is every Sunday night from 9 to 10, I have to fill out each block. So my critical task consists of what is going to move the needle forward for my goals, what's in my daily habits. So every day from 3 to 5 is a critical task. So I have the freedom to pick anything on that list. I prioritize it, what's going to move the needle forward. And then I also have what's called deep work, where it allows me to look at my goals, focus on my goals, and say, hey, this is what my critical task needs to consist of. And you have to stay disciplined. And so during my critical task moments, I'm only doing critical tasks, which is like typically in the business type stuff. So for me, having a schedule like that, but also having a structure that allows freedom to just kind of pick, it allows me to keep that mindset where there's structure, but still some flexibility. Whereas somebody like Austin, he's a little bit more of I don't know, Austin, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like somebody like him, who's an implementer and's got that analytical mind, it might benefit him a little bit more to have that detailed schedule. So I think there's a little bit of kind of learning your personality. There's no exact way to schedule it, but either way you have to schedule, regardless which way you do it. Because I think like Brent, he's handling such a big workload. Just being that he told me he likes a to-do list. He likes to make lists. That's his method of doing it. He always checks off his list. He writes down what's my priority for today to move the needle forward. And so I think there's a little bit of a kind of learning your personality and figuring out which type of scheduling works best for you. But the most important thing I'd like to talk on is just the consistency. You can't do it for 1 week and it not work out and just be like, oh, I'm gonna quit. I think you need to do it for at least 2 or 3 months and figure out if it works, and you make adjustments along the way.
Yeah, I mean, because when you start something, you say you need to do it for a couple months. What do they say? It takes about a month or so, or a little bit longer, to create a habit, right? So at first it's like you're trudging up a hill, and then you do it for so long, and it becomes a habit or second nature to you. So
no, it's 30 days becomes a habit, 90 days becomes a lifestyle. And I actually read a book on it. I read a book on it called Atomic Habits. And your brain actually has neural adaptations once it becomes a lifestyle. And so for instance, an example was brushing your teeth. I brush my teeth with my right hand every day. If I started brushing my teeth with my left hand, it's going to feel weird. But after 30 days, it's not going to feel weird. And after 90 days, your brain is actually going to have neural transformations that adjust to that. So there's actually some science behind the consistency and sticking to a routine. I don't know, Austin, what does your scheduling usually look like? Do you follow a routine? Like how do you schedule your day?
I think now that you mentioned the teeth brushing thing, now every time I brush my teeth, I'm probably going to think about, am I on schedule or am I behind, or is there anything I'm missing out on?
No.
Well, I try to stick to a pretty tight schedule. We bumped this call back 10 minutes, so now that means I'm going to bed a little later tonight, but it's not that bad. I think Brent, to your point of scheduling, I think one of the things that I noticed about you is that you made the plan in the first place. I think that's where a lot of people fall short, is that they don't even attempt to make a plan. I think that's the first huge step. And then after that, Justin, you touched on the point of being disciplined. I think that's another place that people fall short is, and it's really hard to stay disciplined, because you really don't have, someone over your shoulder making sure you're on the clock and doing what you're supposed to do, or no one's telling you to get off your phone if you're distracted in any way. So I think it's really a personal choice. You have to be disciplined and know yourself in order to be productive and get stuff done.
Yeah, I think Justin mentioned too, one thing that I do is make lists. I didn't mention it in the first kind of go around, but like that's probably what I guess keeps me on track, because I noticed before when I really wasn't like implementing the list kind of strategy, where like anything I can think of that I need to do, I try to put it on a list. Otherwise it like goes in one ear and out another, or whatever, it comes up and it goes away. And like, I'll think of it like 2 or 3 weeks later. So at least if I put it on the list, before I start my day, I look at everything on the list and then I try to prioritize, because if we're honest, we can just react to stuff throughout the day when we get so busy, when you start managing a bunch of stuff and you're just reacting to emails or reacting to phone calls, and it never really moves the needle. It never really gets you on the tasks that are going to push that needle forward, get that income coming in. So when you throw it on a board, or when you throw it on a piece of paper, and you're able to visually see and kind of rank, okay, what is the most important, what can wait, and what's really going to help me move the needle. I think that's another, huge thing that I saw productivity just kind of shoot through the roof once I started implementing that. So
a little golden nugget for our listeners right there.
Yeah. Make lists and strike them off. Hold you accountable too. And there's, I think I've heard somebody say too, usually it's the thing on the list that you don't want to do that you really need to do first, right? That one thing that you've been putting off, and it's like, man, I can't get that. And it's like, you've seen it on the list for like a couple days, or maybe even a couple weeks, depending on, if it's a major issue, like something like a rock, or a smaller issue like sand or something. But yeah, strike those things off and get those hard things off your list, and you start getting that routine, and it becomes second nature, where you jump on those hard things and knock them out, and that productivity just shoots through the roof. So
so I guess that leads to, y'all both mentioned the word discipline. That kind of led to my next point. Do you have any type of routines in your day that kind of help you stay disciplined to your schedule and moving the needle forward? I guess to kind of give you a better question is, for example, like with me, my routine is, it does not matter what time I wake up. If I go to bed late and I wake up at 10 o'clock, I'm going to the gym. If I wake up at 5 o'clock, I'm going to the gym. I've just developed this lifestyle of, I got to go to the gym first thing in the morning, because mentally, when I go get that workout in, that routine allows me to, for instance, with me, I mentioned I have those time blocks to where I have an order. The way my day consists, it's always going to be gym, breakfast, critical task. Like, I have a schedule like that where my whole day is, if I start work at 11 a.m. that day because I was staying up late and it caused me to sleep in, and I start at work at 11, I'm still going to be working until 8 p.m. because I have a blocked schedule that doesn't stick to necessarily time. I mean, I stick to time when I can, but I also have that flexibility to where, let's say, for instance, I slept in because I was up late. It allows me to still have work that 8-hour block. And my routine of always being in that mindset of saying, okay, gym, breakfast, critical task. It's just a routine that allows me to every single day I'm being productive. Do you have a routine like that where you mentally kind of get in the zone, or it allows you to keep moving the needle forward?
Yeah, I think so. The routine for me, I think it started a long time ago, but I get up. I've got two little girls, and my wife works full time, so I'm kind of the half the parent, or if you will, I'm helping with getting them ready and taking them and dropping them off at school and all that. So my routine is usually me getting up. I spend kind of I wake up, pour me a cup of coffee. I always start my day from a spiritual standpoint, because that's the only time I really can focus without going a million miles an hour. So I work on myself first, I read my Bible and have that quiet time and pray and meditate and kind of seek the Lord's guidance and all that. And that's really what I think gets me going for the day. And then once that happens, the kids are getting up and kind of getting them ready off to school. And then, I'm ready to rock and roll by 8. I've been up for a couple hours. And, another thing about, waking up early, I think when you wake up early, there's something about that, a lot of entrepreneurs I know, a lot of successful business people I know are not sleeping past 8. I think there's something to that, getting up and getting your day started. But I think the first thing for work, as far as scheduling, I always kick off my day with looking at my list, looking at my calendar, and trying to plan out my day. And I guess the way that you plan out your day is usually how it's going to kind of kick off, but then you have to be able to maybe pivot a little bit as you go, because I think when you have so many irons in the fire, you're getting pulled a lot of directions. So you have to be able to pivot if you need to, but still stay on track is huge. But I'd say the thing that I contribute the most to kind of where I'm at is that like in the beginning of the day, number one, working on myself, and then number two, before I start my day, have my day planned out where I'm not just jumping into it, reacting, but actually have somewhat of a strategy to how my day is going to go. So,
yeah. So I just hear a lot of routine and scheduling the day and constantly checking your schedule before the day starts, not playing it by ear.
That's right. That's right.
I had to sum that up.
And one thing too, we're not saying that you've got to work, 60 hours a week and schedule out your day and just be, hammered out doing work nonstop. I mean, if I was honest, I probably, I'm not working 50, 60 hours a week at this time. I've got a lot going on, but I manage my time in a way where when I'm working, I might be working in a manner that could be, as effective or more effective than somebody working 40 hours a week or 50 hours a week, and I do it in 25 to 30 hours. And then I'm scheduling that other time for things that matter to me, maybe more than the dollar, my family and working on ministry stuff and things of that nature. So,
yeah. So I think one of the things me and Brent had a conversation the other day, I dealt, I guess, starting off is analysis paralysis. I was reading too many books. I had all the information, but I wasn't getting anything done. I had some analysis paralysis, man. I was getting paralyzed from analyzing so much information. And I've had a couple times where maybe I mentioned a word and Brent was like, "What's that word mean?" And the only reason I say that is not in a disrespectful way towards Brent, because Brent, I have so much respect towards him. Is the only reason I say that is because he's 10 years in the future of what I want to be, and he's running 4 companies with a net worth over $1 million, and he's an implementer. He learns what he can, he takes educated risks, and he implements. Whereas you had the extreme opposite of what I was doing, where I have a bookshelf which I'm looking at, I don't know, probably 100 books on there, where I was taking all these notes but I wasn't implementing, and I was running into this cycle of I would read a book, take notes, and I had this feeling of success, but the success was coming through the preparation. So I had successful feeling from feeling prepared, but that's not going to do you anything if you don't actually implement it. And so one of the things I've really been trying to learn from Brent is just his attitude of implementing. Brent, can you talk on that as far as how come you're such a great implementer, and where's the fine line of where do you do your research and you just finally take action?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. Just thinking back when I first got started, I did read a bunch of books, and this was probably I was reading back before what I thought, I guess, I was able to. I was still in college, and I really got into like the Rich Dad Poor Dad books and like his whole series, and just about every real estate book you get your hands on, entrepreneurial book. So I had the mindset and understanding of like what it would take and all that, like you're saying, like the book knowledge. And then I think when I first got my opportunity to like, okay, I'm ready to do something, I think personally my own I guess my character is, I'm a little bit more of a risk taker. I'm that dreamer guy that doesn't have to be in the box, and I can see, maybe the grass that's greener on the other side. Whereas maybe people who like to play it safe and like stay in that box, they don't want to take that risk and they can't vision something. But I think I just jumped in head first, just because I've seen, maybe my grandparents do it. I didn't really have any kind of formal training other than just reading stuff myself and then just kind of going after it. But I just kind of knew that's what I wanted to do. And I think it's something that you just got to jump head first into, but you still need to have some kind of calculated risk. I think we were talking a little bit about this the other day, Justin, but when I do something, I don't just, do it blindingly, but I try to have some kind of educated plan together. And I try to evaluate, like, what if it goes south? Like, what's the biggest thing that it could do to me? So when I first started, my risk tolerance was a lot higher, right? I took a lot bigger risks. Maybe maybe bought some property that maybe I shouldn't have been buying just out of ignorance. And, maybe I was trying to grow too quick or do too many things or, whatever. But as things kind of progressed and I got further down my path, I tended to like slowly take less risk as I had more that I could lose. Right. So as your net worth increases, you want to kind of hedge your bets or just maybe reduce that risk a little bit as you have more to lose. But there's always some type of calculation of like, what if this goes south? What if this goes belly up or doesn't work out to my understanding of what I thought it would, my speculation, and then from that try to make that calculated decision of like, is it worth it, at this point or not? So, I mean, there's things that I've turned down and stuff because of that. But as far as implementing goes, I mean, yeah, just jump in and get it done. I mean, there's nothing better than firsthand experience, right? And the way that I looked at things and the way that, these books, basically preached at me, like, okay, there's never a failure, right? There's only a lesson to be learned. And sometimes those are expensive lessons, right? I don't know, my very first deal that I ever did, I lost $20,000. I don't know.
Burned down, correct?
Yeah. You want me to share with you a little bit about
go ahead.
deal?
That's actually that was my next point. Just we were going to chat about maybe a couple some of your toughest losses, but I'm gonna cut you off real quick and read this and then let you continue. But like right here, it says like you had mentioned like failure. Like right here, it says a mistake is simply another way of doing things. So and that's by Warren Buffett. So after hearing that quote, go ahead and talk about some of the mistakes you've made and give me some tangible things you've learned on like what's a gold nugget through each failure. I know one of the things I was wanting you to chat about too was your burnt down house. You said you lost 20,000, and then also like you have 4 companies. I got to experience trying to start up another company in the last year and a half where we had mentioned there was $100,000 loss, but you were so diversified that you could take that hit. And now through that loss, we figured out we need to hone in our focus, and we're on pace. I believe last time I checked, we're on pace to have 7 or 8 contracts next month, where you're picking up almost 8 investment properties next month, where that's just crazy to even consider. Like growing up, I didn't know people can do that. And so even though your property burnt down and there was $100,000 loss, we're still on pace to do some amazing results this year. Can you kind of talk on that?
Yeah. So, as far as the loss thing goes, if you're wanting to be a business owner, if you're wanting to be an entrepreneur, if you're wanting to do anything other than being an employee, right? And maybe even when you're an employee, right, you're going to experience some type of failure. It's not like if you're going to experience failure, it's like win, right? So it's the people who are successful that have found a way to manage through those times of hardship and failure, right? So I got I got baptized by fire starting out. Like my very first deal, I remember like it was yesterday. It was over on Cotton Belt Street. I bought, I think it had 2 properties on there on 3 lots, and then there was a barn in the back, a really large barn. Out of the kindness of my heart, a guy had approached me in a parking lot of some grocery store. I don't think it was Walmart, but he approached me and was like, "Hey, I really need work. My wife's pregnant." So I hired the guy to tear down this barn that I needed done. And I'm young. I'm still in college. I think I was like 20, 21 or 22, something like that. And, hired the guy. He was supposed to be tearing it down. I had him a dumpster, and he got lazy. And I guess he threw a match to the thing, and it basically, I got a call from the fire department and said, "Hey, do you own this property at 911 Cottonville?" I said, "Yes, sir, I do. You need to get over here." So I pull up, and it's just like ashes on the ground of where the barn was, in like the perfect square of the barn, right? Huge barn. And then right next to the barn was about 7 foot away a commercial building, industrial building, and it had scorched the whole side of that building all the way down. And I'm like, oh no. So like obviously, the insurance company came after the owner of the property, not the guy who started the fire. Me being a newbie, I thought I was going to save some money. These houses were really, really dilapidated. I was going to fix them up, tear this one down, and then, get insurance on it later. Didn't have insurance. I was trying to save some money there. And so I lawyered up. I had to settle with the other insurance company of the commercial building. And I think it was like 40 grand in damage. And we settled at like 20 or so, and ended up, I didn't have that kind of money at the time. So I ended up having to like borrow it from my grandma or something. And I paid her back over the course of the next 2 years or something like that, and ended up paying it off. So like after that, like my wife was like, "You're done. Like we're not doing that. Like, this is investing, right? You don't want to, ruin your life doing this." And I'm like, "No, this is what I want to do the rest of my life." And, fast forward and that's a blip on the radar. Actually, I've got the replat of that, and I'm going to put it up on my wall one day and be like, this is what you start with, right? And what you've overcome. So it's like everybody's going to have some kind of hardship at some time, and it doesn't even matter like at what point you're in your career, right? Because that was day one, right? Within the first couple of months of me jumping into investing. And then, fast forward 10 years later, and, I've owned a couple companies, and, just last year we tried to do quite a bit. We launched into like 4 different states wholesaling, and we were flipping quite a few houses. And then, I had other stuff going on, still trying to be a realtor. And then we had a trucking company that we were launching. So we had a lot going on. And, we struggled with some cash flow problems last year where, we knew the money was coming. We had bills coming. We had some really, really large overhead. I think we were spending about $30,000 or $40,000 a month. And, to keep up with that on a new company year one, that's really hard to do. Most companies will lose money the first couple of years before they can stable out. But in the loss, I think one thing, we could have done a couple things differently, but in that loss, I think there was still a silver lining. With that loss, we spent a lot of money to make a lot of net worth. I think our net worth kicked up another 600,000 just in one year. So, the loss was a hardship. It was tough. It was these gray hairs in the sides of my head. Like, it's real, and the responsibilities are real of getting people paid that's working for you. And you can't just freeze in the moment. You have to make decisions that's going to propel you forward to the best of your ability. And like, there were times in the company where, I don't want to say just completely doubting everything, but honestly, it's like, okay, man, I just want to throw my hands up. Like, this is impossible, right? But then here we are, stabilized out. We've had positive months every single month, and we're pulling great salaries for all of us. And then, we're increasing net worth at a rapid rate right now. And we got closings picking up equity just like left and right. So, man, if I can say anything about like the hardships and the failures, like, they're coming, right? They're going to come. It doesn't matter where you're at. It doesn't matter who you are. You see this in Fortune 500 companies, right? Huge debt restructures and stuff, because there's failures, there's issues, right, that they've got to figure out. So I don't think anybody is just like, going to be able to get away from this. So just expect it and then pivot when it comes, right? That's the ones that succeed, the ones that can pivot and that can make it through those hardships. So, other people have done it, so you can too. It's a trail that's already been blazed. So get on down it.
Yeah. So to sum that up in one sentence, to make it a gold nugget, basically expect failure and then pivot. And if you prepare, he takes educated risk. I mean, like he had mentioned, cash flow issues, but his net worth still grew by 600,000. To me, that's just crazy to even say that. Like, I feel like some people don't even make that in a year, and Brent's over here growing his net worth. So he's the real deal.
I'd also mention too the diversification of my portfolio, of all the companies I have, all the things I've got going on, has been monumental in propelling me forward. Because with that $100,000, $100,000 loss, we were able to kind of allocate certain expenses and salaries and things to other companies where we actually zeroed that out. So we had a $600,000 increase with no shown income. Well, we showed a little bit of income on a few companies, but it was minimal, where we could absorb that, right? Absorb that loss into the other companies, where we didn't skip a beat, and we're still growing and we're still making good money. And, we're profitable now. And, that was just I think the nature of a lot of startups. So when you get going, we spent a lot of money on trying to figure out, like, what's our best advertising, channel. We spent, I couldn't tell you how many hours and, how many reports and how many thousands and thousands of dollars on, advertising channels that maybe just didn't pan out or whatever. But now, okay, we're like, this is our best channel. This is what we're going to do. And we're executing on that. And like, our profit margin is just, I mean, it's increasing. We're seeing it every single month. So
yeah,
stick with it.
So I think I've heard you mention over the last year of our relationship, you have mentioned a couple of times that 10, 15 years ago, you never imagined being to this point. I heard a quote the other day. It said, don't set goals based off of what you can do. Set goals based off of what is possible, and figure out how to get there. Brent, after hearing that quote, can you tell me a little bit on your mindset of setting these big goals you have on that?
Yeah. So, I mean, when you set your goals, you always want to set goals that are going to be, maybe further than what you think you can grasp. And then when you fall short of those goals, you always go further than what you initially imagined. So like, when I set goals, when I first started like 10 years ago, I never thought I was going to have, 10, $20 million in real estate and multiple companies and talking about retirement before 40. Right. So it's just mind blowing of what people can do. And this is coming from somebody, that didn't do well in school, right? I didn't get the straight A's, and even A's and B's. Like I was happy to pass classes. Right now, I graduated from college. It took me, I don't know, I think 5 or 6 years or something. I was on the long track, and it just I wasn't a studious guy. I don't think of myself as somebody who is just really, really intelligent. But if you have grit and you have drive, you can get to some places that you would never think that you could get. But it's hard to get somewhere if you don't set those goals. So like the goal setting is, man, it's just, you have to be setting goals. It has to be, it should be some kind of a goal that's like a long term, where it's like a 10-year goal, and then break it down to like a 3-year goal, then break it down to like a 1-year goal, and then even get down into your quarterly goals. And like you can even go further than that and say, on my quarterly goals, what are those things, like we call them rocks, or what are those big rocks that I can hash out so that will get me to that goal? And even for those rocks, what's some other things, like these tasks that can hash away at those rocks? So like you always want to kind of step back on your goals. That's like, these things are going to lead up to my 10-year goals if I continue down that. And they change, right? So like I've had goals, and every single year I'll come back and I'll reevaluate that, and maybe even pivot based on what I know, or what I feel, or a risk assessment, or whatever. If the market changes, right? The Corona thing, our goals changed. We went from going door to door to becoming a virtual company, which allowed us to launch into 3 other states at the time, and it worked for us. And it's just something that you have to pivot when you need to, right? So that pivoting and that creativity of maybe thinking outside the box, but still staying focused and in your lane is man, a force to be reckoned with. So
yeah, I think just want to basically condense that all down into a golden nugget is you set your goals. Ideally, it's a 5-year goal, a 1-year goal, and then you break that down into quarterly goals, which is 4 times a year, and then you break that down even further into daily goals. So every week you need to be planning out, what are my daily goals? But these daily goals are based off of your 5-year goal. And like Brent mentioned, making adjustments. So I know at the beginning of last year, when I was working for Brent, as far as our wholesaling company, I was driving on appointments. We kind of changed virtual. I think we have a closing next week in Savannah, Georgia. We've never set foot in there. And the Corona caused us to pivot. We're like, oh, I can't go face to face. So we had to go a little virtual. We pivoted, but we're still shooting for these big goals. We just had to pivot a little. And that's why it's important to constantly be evaluating your goals. It's the same way with a GPS. When you plug in your goal, your GPS, that's your goal. But you have your route to get there, but you're not going to follow the exact route. But let's say you run into a road collision with somebody, or you take a detour, you kind of got to pivot. And but by the end of the day, you're still going to get to that goal. So don't set goals off of what you think you can do. Set goals off of what's possible, and you achieve that through the daily habits you have, and constantly reevaluating how to get there. Brent, man, I've hit all the bullet points that I want. Is there anything you wanted to talk about, or Austin, either one of y'all?
Austin, do you have anything?
I just wanted to say, since you've been talking, and I've enjoyed listening to your stories and kind of hearing where you came from, and just based off of that, I wanted to tell you something that I think is very admirable about who you are and what you've done. I just think you, Brent, as a businessman and as a person in general, I think you have a really, really good way of seeing opportunity and capitalizing on it. Just based off of the different. I mean, from what I know about your companies, I know that you do the flipping and wholesaling, and then the trucking thing. Like, those are 2 totally different ends of a spectrum, but I do see how they can. Me and Justin were talking about this yesterday. How they relate. You're basically like almost renting out these trucks, and they produce cash flow just like you would rent out a house and it produces cash flow. Mm-hmm. I just think it's cool how you can just see these things, and then based on just these things you think, okay, how can I make money doing this? And mm-hmm. you do, and you make it happen, and you've grown it exponentially, and you keep doing it. I just think that's a really, really admirable thing to constantly have things going on day to day, have these larger plans, but even in these smaller moments, you can see things that come across your desk, or, you see and you just make it happen and add it to your portfolio.
Yeah. And I think too, on that, to expound on that a little bit, the things that I'm looking for now are those passive income ideas, right? So it's the trucking company that all I have to do is, borrow money from the bank, purchase a truck, and turn it over to a company to manage it for me, right? And it becomes passive, and I look at a report. Well, I don't look at a report. My bookkeeper looks at a report, right? And maybe I look at a report once a quarter. And then, the for sale by owner packet, like there was an initial setup of that, but then I have a partner that I turn this over to, and he's the managing partner. So I'm done. And, he takes on from there, takes the torch and creates the website and everything. And it becomes passive for me, right? So I'm going to have a residual income that's going to be hitting my account on a regular basis every time one of those packets sell the next 20, 30 years, right? And I don't have to do another thing other than maybe, a meeting here and there, and maybe tweaking stuff as we go. So like these passive ideas, I think, and adding those passive ideas onto my portfolio has been monumental in kind of compounding itself, and not taking away my time, because when you get to a certain point, time is money, and you just have to really be able to get those streams coming without having to give your time for it. So I'll leave one more point, or leave with one more point, one more gold nugget, if you will. I think if anybody wants to succeed as an entrepreneur, you're going to have to figure out your why, right? If you go to seminars and stuff, you'll hear them talk about this. But what your why is, like, what drives you, what gets you out of bed in the morning, right? What gets you going to the office, or what gets you going whenever you're facing failure on a regular basis, right? What pushes you through that? If your why is too weak, you're going to fail, right? You're not going to get through it. For me, my why, I've experienced the Lord's, firsthand, God himself, and in supernatural ways where I can't deny that, I'm a sinner, and the Lord died for my sins so that I can live with him forever. And because of that, like, my why is, like, I want to share that with other people, right? So my life mission, my purpose, why I'm doing all these things, is to push me so that I can focus on Bush Mission International. It's a nonprofit that I started, that we try to bring the gospel to unreached places in the world. So with that as my why, that's one of my biggest whys. And then my family is my why too, where, I'm trying to retire my wife and give everything my kids need, like education and food on their table, and not have to worry about, if they're going to be able to afford stuff, kind of thing. So like family and working for the Lord, and getting his name out there so that people can experience his love like I have. Like, those are the things, those are my whys that get me through those hard times in my companies, right? And if you have a why like that, that's what you can go back to every time when it's hard and say, this is why I'm putting up with this, right? And this is why I'm going to push so hard. This is why I'm getting up at 4:30 in the morning, right? And getting out there and working, right? Because of this why. And sometimes you got to be reminded of that, because every single entrepreneur, I don't care who it is, at some time has wanted to give up and be like, I can't do it, right? I'm done. Like, and they have their pity party, and then they regroup, right? And then they're like, okay, I can do this. What's my why? I got to do this, right? That's what's going to push you forward, is your why. So if you haven't figured out your why, that's a great point, I think, to end on. You got to start with your why. Figure out why you're doing this. Why are you still alive? Why do you get up in the bed? Why do you get up? Is it for fame? Is it for money? Is it for whatever, for whatever, what's your want,
No, yeah, man, I actually had it in my notes to chat about that first. I'm glad you brought that up, man. Your why is what's going to keep your discipline going. And guys, if you can turn this into some tangible evidence, like, don't take this at a cliche level. Too many people say, what's your why? And they're thinking, oh, that's good advice, but they move on. I'm serious. Go home, write down your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? I do this I haven't skipped a day for the last year of my life. I literally write down why I'm doing what I'm doing. And it just it reminds me, and I think through that. Sometimes my why, I kind of change it a little, but I mean, go write it down and make it a tangible thing, because one of my things I noticed is I was too focused on motivation at one point. Motivation is an emotion. Discipline is not an emotion. And your why is what's going to keep your discipline going. Because if you don't have a why, you're only going to rely on your motivation. And your motivation, like I said, is an emotion. And nobody has the exact same emotion 24/7, but they can have discipline a whole lot more than they can control their emotions. Like Brennan mentioned last year, he threw his hands up at one point and was like, what am I going to do with this cash flow issue? But he remembered his why and kept pushing forward, and we're just continuing to see success. So kind of to turn that into one sentence of a golden nugget, like go home and write it down. I know for me, my why is I grew up in a mobile home, and my why is I want to buy my parents' company, and I want to help them retirement. I want to be the best father and husband I can be. I get married in August. And so that's my why. And same as Brent, like I want to go preach and spread the word. I mean, he's got that 501c, and I hope we can go do big things with that. But I write those things down as my why, and it keeps you going. I mean, this morning, this is podcast number 1. I think I slept 4 hours last night. I was up till 1:30 just reviewing notes. I tend to accidentally be an overanalyzer, so I made all these bullet points, and then I got up this morning at 6, and so just excited to do it, because my why is that I want somebody to be listening to this and get inspired. I want them to go home and implement some of these gold nuggets today, and that was my why. And my why made me be disciplined and sleeping less last night, I guess. I mean, it's not healthy to always do that, but I just had such a powerful why that I was being disciplined and making sure I was so prepared. Austin, did you have anything? I know Brent brought something up. Did you have anything else, or what do you think?
I think there's a lot of good stuff, and a lot of people can not only reflect on what we've said, but act on it too. I think, Brent, I appreciate you talking with us today. I think you've got more knowledge than we can fit into one podcast, but I appreciate you giving us a little sliver of your life.
Yeah, man. I appreciate y'all having me on again. You know, I just, man, I look at you two guys and just I see myself looking at y'all, and just your passion and your drive, and like your knowledge base right now is like, man, it's unmatched. Like it's awesome to see y'all like reading all these books, and then like, you know, it's so funny. Like I work with Justin on a regular basis, so it might, you know, I've talked with him a lot more, but you know, we'll be in a conversation and he'll just rattle off some stuff about investing that I've never heard. It's like, where'd you get that from? Oh, this book, you know? So it's going to be exciting to tune into this podcast and hear that information, like come back, and not just come back, but come back from a standpoint of like his experience in it now. And then also, man, I just know there's going to be so many gold nuggets coming out of this podcast. It's going to be cool. Definitely going to be a lifetime subscriber of this. So again, I appreciate so much being able to be the first guest. That's such an honor. And just want to thank you guys.
What's up, guys? That was the end of episode 1 with Brent Meeks. We dropped some huge gold nuggets. Guys, I need y'all to go home and implement those today. Please stay in tune over the next 50 episodes. I have 50 more guest speakers ready to drop some high-level gold nuggets. They're implementing these currently. I need y'all to go home and implement them, because I guarantee y'all, if y'all implement every single one of these gold nuggets, you will reach your dreams.